very special guest coming up next, an analyst extraordinaire, an individual who's put himself on the map not just for his knowledge of the game outside of things on the desk as an analyst, but also inside the game as a player with no diggity, a person who's been around the Dota scene for so long that you'd be living under a rock not to know his name. Of course, I'm talking about, and let me see if I can get this right. I'm going to try it, Synderen. Tos Synderen. Welcome to the program. Did I get close at least?
That was pretty good. Let's say pretty.
As I said before the show, that's what we strive here on True Sight is pretty good. So let's just go ahead and dive into it. You've been on the analyst desk with Toby at the International. You've been on the biggest stages in Dota 2 as a personality, and yet lately you seem to have redoubled your focus more as a competitor. The big question for me isn't necessarily how No Diggity's doing, because obviously you guys are finding lots of success, especially in Europe. My question for you is, how do you manage to juggle your responsibilities as an analyst and the intense pressure of being an analyst turned player?
So you mean how I deal with it now?
Yeah,
my focus now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously been a shift. I like to focus a lot on, focus my attention on one thing and then really try to, do my best inside that field. And I wanted to for a long time. I think I can't remember when it was. Late 2013, I stopped playing, and then I wanted to do some other stuff. I wanted to try behind the scenes and explore more with streaming and casting. So I did that for a while, and then I got this urge to play again. But it took a while before I got an opportunity that I really wanted to commit to. And then once I had it, that's the 100% focus. So yes, I still the whole thing of juggling it. I don't think of it that way. I think of it as I'm focusing on playing and on being the best player and the best, getting the best results that we can. And then if there are opportunities on the side, then casting or analyzing is a side thing that I can do if we don't make an event that we're trying to qualify for, or if there's an event we aren't invited for or don't want to play where we take a little bit of time off as a team, then maybe I feel okay, you know what, that could be fun to do a little bit of analysis on there. So that's status.
Well, and I'm sure a lot of people will remember when you piloted the successful Mouse Sports squad to the International a couple years, or was it 3 years ago at this point?
TI3 what's that now?
That would have been 2013.
Almost 3 years.
Yeah, so it would have been 3 years ago. Okay, wow. Time flies in Dota. And you piloted that squad to the International, and you guys did quite well there. So this is obviously nothing new to you. I mean, this is a role that you've been in before. How comfortable were you stepping back into that role? Was it like riding a bike?
Well, I practiced a lot of just playing ranked pub games to get back into the whole mindset of just having a good understanding of the game, having the mechanics and the feel. Dota is one of those games where you can read 10 books about it, but it doesn't matter if you don't have the hands-on experience and have enough of it. You really just need to play a lot of games to get understanding. So that was my first thing. Then when it actually came to start practicing, I obviously needed to relearn some things and remember some things, but experience goes a long way. So I think my transition back is a lot faster than someone else of similar skill or, trying to get into drafting and captaining from scratch. There's definitely a way faster progress for me. So I guess kind of like riding a bike, but at the same time you can't just say, oh, I'm just, I'm drafting again, let's go. You just need to pick up some experience again, but it goes fast.
Especially after a patch like 6.87. I'm sure things have changed a lot. Now talk to me a little bit about your plans for No Diggity. Obviously, the name is hilarious, but you guys have had success. This isn't Vegetable Esports Club, whereas there's a bunch of casters getting together and doing something fun. This is obviously a more serious pursuit for you. So, what's the next step for No Diggity? Is it sponsorship? Is it the International? What does the future look like for No Diggity?
It's hopefully all of the things, right? It's a placeholder name that we thought was just fun. Obviously, a reference to the song by Blackstreet from I think the 90s, and we're working on potential some organization stuff. We'll see where it goes. But apart from that, the goal definitely to play in the biggest tournaments. TI is the #1 goal. It is for every team that wants to take themselves seriously. The first steps along the way are we're playing an Epicenter in, I think that's a week and a half already. Very important event for us to try to get ourselves really on the map. Then we have the Dream League finals, and then obviously also the Manila qualifiers that we actually have to play before Epicenter. So those qualifiers will decide whether we get to go to the Manila Major, and that is in a week already. So that's the next things.
So you heard it here first, folks. Synderen's new squad is the new Cloud9. Congratulations on the sponsorship deal. Now, the question for me, obviously, you guys are playing in the qualifiers, and as a casual observer, it's easy for me to say these teams got in, these teams are in the qualifier, great. But for a player on an actual team that has competitive ambitions, I have to imagine that it was difficult to look at the invite sheet and see one qualifier spot coming out of your region. How does that affect your mentality going into things, especially as a team that's looking to make a statement?
Well, we're not playing the qualifiers for second place anyway. Like, let's say there were 2 spots, and then obviously you will be like, you're happy you get there. But at the end of the day, I don't think it changes that much for us. We need to get through a lot of teams. Arguably, yes, there's only 1 slot, so you need to beat everyone instead of everyone minus 1. But in the grand scheme of things, with how many teams there are and the level of competition, it's actually not that big of a difference. It's just about finding your comfort zone, doing your research, working as a team, and then it's just 1 extra match, basically.
Now, obviously, Europe, traditionally the strongest region in Dota. I hate to say it, North American fans. It's true. We have to admit it. We've come to terms with it. It's okay. And you have a lot of competition to battle through, although Alliance and Na'Vi were sort of removed from the pool, if you will, with the direct invite system. Talk to me about your competition for Manila. Who are the teams that you're most looking out for? And I'm sure, feel free to give me the rote competitive answer that, well, you have to respect every team, but come on. Who are you?
You have to respect every team.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'll give both answers. That one is obviously true. Like, if you're playing a big competition like this and the games are important, you can't underestimate anyone. You do your best in every game, and you treat every team with respect. So you prepare for them specifically and get ready, and you're not like overconfident. It's good to be confident and believe in yourself, but if you're too arrogant and cocky, you could just lose games out of just not doing research, for example. It's just pointless. Like, why not invest that amount of time you need for that when it's so important? That said, I think the really strong teams in the qualifier for me, I think Empire looked really good in their recent LAN performance in, what was that, the Manila, ESL Manila. Apart from that, like you said, Na'Vi and Alliance are not in the qualifier. Some people thought they would be. Vega are also a team to look out for when they're well prepared. I think Virtus Pro haven't really found their stride just yet, and a lot of people are saying that roster is just weak. I respectfully disagree, and if they find their style in this patch, I think those 3 teams are probably, I see on paper, maybe our biggest competitors going in. But honestly, any team on the given day in this pool of teams, if they found like the holy grail before the tournament starts, then anyone really, literally any one of the teams can take it.
And I'd like to point out that anybody who's watched Dota for an appreciable amount of time knows that once a year, like Christmas, Power Rangers out of nowhere becomes strong for about 3 or 4 weeks. Are you worried that this is when Power Rangers is going to find their strength?
We had a pretty good grip on them the last time we faced them. Like I said, it honestly completely depends on if they find a good recipe for how to play the patch. That's the really big question mark for me going in. We get to see the We Play tournament being played out with some of the teams. I think Adfinem is there, and they will also be in the qualifier. And I think there's one more, maybe. Is it Empire? Or I can't remember. But there's one more of the teams, at least, that is also in that tournament. So we get to see a bit of footage from them and what their reads are. But at the end of the day, the patch is so new that a lot of it comes down to just who gets the good idea early and who adapts quickly to changes, because the games are going to be very different from time to time.
By the way, as one of Dota's foremost analysts, can you please explain the annual Power Rangers Equinox? Is it a phase of the moon? Is it just Ice Frog throws him a bone and gives him less ping? Like, what is it? I don't understand.
I don't know. I can't remember what players on Power Rangers now used to be on the older squads. I think J4 and Cheshire Cat used to be on multiple Power Rangers squads. You know, it's a momentum thing. You find your drive, you find the right style, and then of course for the Power Rangers of the previous 2 years, they had like these performances where they beat top contenders. Like back when Na'Vi was considered one of the best teams in Alliance, they would actually take games off them back shortly post TI3 or era, I think. But Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. And at the end of the day, they were known as like the Titan Slayers because they beat those big teams, but at the same time, they weren't consistent, right? They didn't like keep beating the other teams, and that's what you need to do to be at the top. You need to not only have that like one or two standout performances against top teams, but also go through the other teams that you're supposed to win against, and they just didn't manage. So I'm not sure I agree that they have like these 3 to 4 weeks where they're just dominating, because I can't remember that happening, but I remember some great upset wins by them, at least, and that's cool to see, you know?
Fair enough. And I mean, for all we know, there's a deal with a devil and a golden fiddle going on, and if you're old enough to get that joke, welcome to the show. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about your mindset, about what you bring to the table, not just as a competitor, but as an analyst. Talk to me a little bit about the process of being an analyst. I know that you've sort of put the player role in more of a focus in your life right now, but talk to me a little bit about how, with all these amateur casters coming up for the Manila qualifiers, what's your approach to preparing and analyzing the game and understanding new patches like the one that just launched yesterday?
I play a lot, and I have played a lot, and I have a lot of experience. And that is the greatest thing in Dota to have if you're analyzing. You need to be able to put yourself in the spot of if you can put yourself in the spot of the players and just you can imagine what it's like playing the draft, what they're thinking, how they should be playing the game, what is happening. He made this mistake. What could the reason be? He made this great play. Why was that play great? And it's just it's easier to see and understand why things are great if you have seen something similar before, or just understand the context of what's going on. And all of that mainly comes with just playing a lot. That's why a lot of the great analysts that have been analyzing the game for a long time are ex-competitive players, because they just know the game better than people who haven't played it competitively. It's very natural. As far as preparation for tournaments goes, especially when I was actively casting, that also kind of reflects on that my main preparation for tournaments to go and work was actually playing the game and watching games. I didn't sit down with my book and write down a lot of notes for every team and prepare that way and get like statistics and stuff. Others are doing that as prep. Nothing against that. That's perfectly fine. And I think it brings some other things to the table than what I do, because I can't just like pull that stat out of my hat or say that historically this team is incredibly good with this hero, because I don't really have that. But I can look at the draft, I can look at the gameplay and understand what they're doing. And that means, if you want to think about prep, I prep all the time for what I'm doing. So when I was casting, every game I'm playing, every game I'm watching, I'm critical, I try to understand, and I try to learn. And those are the 3 key things you need if you want to succeed in pretty much anything, right? So it's maybe a boring answer. I don't know.
No, it's not. Although I will certainly challenge you on that answer, because if I'm not mistaken, I saw a Reddit post not that long ago of an individual with 6,000 Ricky games who had a 1,400 MMR. All I'm saying is that when you go into a game, obviously there's a little bit more that goes into it. You see something that maybe those of us who aren't analysts don't. What are the things, if you can sort of pick your own brain for a second, that you focus on? Are you focusing on map movements, item builds, mechanics? What goes into that consideration of a game?
It's like everything at once. Sometimes you want to focus a lot on one thing. You look at a player and you try to see how is he mechanically playing the lane. Why is it good? What are the results? How does he use his farm? Stuff like that. But a lot of the times, Dota is a very complex game. So the factor is that you can't just isolate one thing and say this is let's say he plays a great lane. And then, okay, so he plays a great lane, but what's the actual impact on the game? Oh, that was his TP movement. That was his read that he told his team. What of the things can you actually see, and what things do you guess from context? To use your Ricky example, I think that's really interesting. If someone has played 6,000 games and is 1,400 MMR, I think a really good way to get better is playing other heroes. Because the problem is, if you keep playing the same hero, You see, this is the whole thing I was talking about earlier with being able to put yourself in the spot of the opponent. If you've never played their heroes, you don't truly understand how good they are. And that's why, in order to become, say, a good support player, or a good carry player, or a good offlane, or mid player, whatever, it's important that you have some sort of at least basic understanding of what every opponent hero you're facing can do. And the best way to get a feel for that is playing it yourself. So if this guy keeps playing Ricky and he's like, damn, this hero counters me so hard, try playing it yourself and find out why it counters you, so that you can deal with it in a different way in the game, instead of just, oh, damn, he picked that counter hero, I can't win. Dota isn't that black and white.
So it sounds like a big part of it, because my follow-up question was going to be if you have advice for newbies, what is it, the one thing they could focus on that could make the biggest difference? And it sounds like maybe the answer to that is just knowledge of heroes, just playing the damn heroes in the game.
Yes, absolutely. I've been approached by different players who are beginners and are like, how do I get good at the game? And I say, if you're new to the game, play all the heroes a few times, just because then after that, first of all, you find out what kind of heroes you like and that you think are fun, and that's like your player personality. Some people love being in your face, like playing ganking or strength heroes that get blink daggers and just go and fight, and others are like, I really like farming until I have 4 big items, or I love playing support because I don't need items, but it's all about like my detailed, like small movements and the little differences I make all the time. And that's so individual, what you actually like and what your biggest strengths are, and you don't really truly find that out until you try playing everything, and it just gives you a way better game understanding. So absolutely, that is the best advice.
I've also heard it said before that if you want to become a better carry player, play support. If you want to become a better support, play carry, because then you understand that relationship in the lane. That seems to make a big difference. Excellent. Well, we're talking a lot about the heroes in the game, and of course that leads us naturally to the next topic of conversation, which is patch 6.87. It's here, Synderen. Whether we like it or not, for better or for worse, we now have 4 new items. I believe it's 4 new items in the game, or maybe it's 6. I can't keep up, man.
I don't remember. Actually,
I believe it's. I'm not going to list them all on it. I was going to try to list them. Yeah, I think it's blood. Nope. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. I'm a bigger man than that. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the patch. I know that I've personally have been addicted to Wagamama's stream and just seeing all the different builds he comes up with, including an extremely potent Echo Saber Spirit Breaker, which was pretty scary. You get that double bash and. Tears are rolling down people's faces. Talk to me a little bit about, I'm sure you've read the patch notes, and I'm sure you've played a lot of games, obviously. What are the changes in this patch that you think are going to have the biggest effect on the meta?
Well, overall, I'm a competitor and a competitive player, so I don't want to go into too much detail and share too many of our key points of what we think is important.
So now's your chance to give false information and
this is when I mislead them.
Exactly.
Oh, that new teardrop thing is really good. You should buy 6 of them every game. And fill your inventory up. Oh, okay. So I won't go too much into detail about what we as a team think is strong, because you want to keep your cards close to yourself, especially in the position we're in right now, where we have really important matches coming up. So I don't want to talk too much about that. I just think the most important thing right now, and this is kind of a vague and a broad answer, but I guess it's what you're going to have to take, is that whenever there's a big patch and there are so many new things, people don't really know right now what's strong. People have some theories, and they try and test, and they have their own different ideas, and I think it's going to be really interesting going into WePlay to see, because I think the teams are going to draft completely different things, actually. As for the new items, I think some of them look like items that you will want to buy very frequently, and others look like very, like either pocket strats or very hero specific and not as powerful. I do want to say, though, off the top of my head, I think the Echo Saber might be the most powerful new item in general. It is very applicable on a lot of heroes.
Even more than Bloodthorn.
Yes, I think so. Bloodthorn is more hero specific, I find. How many heroes really want that Orchid plus crit combination off the top of your head? There's not that many heroes that you usually want to buy Orchid and damage on the same hero. Whereas there are plenty of melee heroes that want to hit heroes. So, that's just logical for me. As far as the heroes go, again, without going into detail, so far I like the patch. I think there's a lot of diversity and a lot of things that still work. It wasn't obviously, people are talking about it like it's a very big patch. I think it's a smaller patch than 6.86 in terms of big changes, because there's no massive hero reworks. I feel it's more like a bit of tweaking and balancing here and there that is going to bring some old heroes back and going to kill some unfortunate ODs, stuff like that. So.
Poor OD.
That's what it is.
And then, I mean, the probably the most significant change that stuck out to me, at least, not in terms of abilities, but in terms of raw stat adjustments, was the -6 starting intelligence for Invoker. Do you think that that's what needed to happen to sort of put him back in check with other mid laners? Because we've already seen a number of other mid laners pop up from the unholy trinity of Death Prophet, Invoker, and OD.
It's definitely a good change for that hero. I still think Invoker can definitely be good. That's what I like patches where the strong heroes get nerfed a little bit, but not to oblivion, unless the hero is super annoying, like Huskar and Techies. I'm perfectly fine with them getting like big bad, but that's just personal bias, because I don't like the heroes. But I think the nerfs to Invoker were pretty intelligent. It doesn't, in my opinion, make the just break the hero completely and make it very bad, but it gives him some weaknesses that I think he didn't have, that the old Invoker that used to be a situational pick used to have. And he just got buffed a couple of times and maybe pushed a bit over the edge. Right now, in my mind, he's probably in a pretty good place. I think he's still going to see play, and people are exaggerating a little bit when they say Invoker is out of the picture.
Well, and frankly, it's better for the game, isn't it, to have more viable heroes? Because that's sort of always been the strength of Dota, is that the drafting is difficult because everything's on the table, even the things that you don't expect. So, yeah, I'll agree that I would have loved to have seen Invoker removed from the game after the pubs that I've had, but sadly he's still here, and frankly
he's also an entertaining hero, right? That's another
that's
thing.
True.
The design, how good it is to watch. It's one of those heroes that you can just be, excel on and have incredible individual plays, and it's just, just in terms of visuals, it's beautiful to look at all the spells being cast and all that. From a spectator point of view, it's a really entertaining hero, so it's a shame if it dies.
And you could say the exact same thing about Earth Spirit. There are these heroes that frustrate people because when they're played well, they're extremely difficult to work around. But we saw one of the Empire players, I forget his name at the moment, play
absolutely
Earth Spirit beautifully, just beautiful breakout games from Aposhka. Just and it's hard. It would be hard to see Dota without that hero now that he's had such a positive depends on who you ask, but such a great impact on the visual and strategic aspects of the game. So obviously you can't give away too much about the patch. So let's switch gears real quick. We got only a little bit amount of time left, so I want to milk your brain as much as possible to teams, to the upcoming teams, some of them whom you will probably be facing and may have already scrimmed. And the big one for me is Team Secret. Team Secret walked into the ESL Manila, and a lot of people thought that they were the favorite just based on talent alone, and they sort of underperformed. And arguably, they faced up against an opponent who overperformed in Empire that sort of, was the gatekeeper for their entrance to the playoffs. Talk to me about this squad. There's high expectations, and they weren't really met at ESL Manila. So what's going on with this team, and are we just seeing beginner's jitters for a new squad?
I think the real issue is that people have unrealistic expectations. I'm thinking to myself whether Secret underperformed, and I don't know, because I think Empire are a really strong team, and they found their way of playing, and that's what Secret needed to find. They need some more experience to find their playstyle. And it sounds weird when I say that, because it's like they have these star players, and they're all incredibly experienced and have played so many games of Dota. But the game is really complex, and when you shuffle a team and you get new team members, you often talk about the honeymoon phase and how the teams just get incredibly strong really fast and everything just seems to click. But it doesn't necessarily go that way. It really depends if you find that perfect style really quickly, and then sometimes the reason that honeymoon phase ends is that they play that one style and they're great at it, and then it gets countered. It's like, okay, what's our plan B? And that's where the experienced teams have that plan B and the plan C. And I think Secret right now, they need to find the plans, and it takes time. And people probably forget that the old Secret, that I think not the previous iteration, but the one before that, I think the one with Zai, it also took them a little while before they became that absolute star power team that everyone saw as the favorites going into every tournament. And the reason they became the favorites was that they started winning, but it still took time for them to build it up, maybe a month, maybe two. And their players obviously have different strengths, and you need to find that common denominator that makes everyone's strengths work at the same time. Farm distribution, hero pool, overall strategy. Do you want to play fast? Do you want to play slow? Something in between. What's important? What are you really good at? And someone like Puppy, for example, is obviously great at playing junglers, but it doesn't matter if the team isn't good at playing around junglers, or the pace that style of play requires doesn't fit how the other players play the game. And you just need to scrim a lot, and you need to talk a lot, you need to watch a lot to understand what you need to do.
As long as we're creating unrealistic expectations for teams with big names, let's talk about Evil Genius. No, I think you bring up some interesting points, because it's easy to look at a team on paper and say, Universe, Arteezy. You could sell secret jerseys for $50 a pop, and you'd sell out of them right now. And so that's the kind of love that people have for the squad and how enamored they are with what this team could possibly do. But if you want to see a team that had big names that didn't perform there, you could look as easily as Evil Geniuses, the team that Arteezy came from. When he came on the roster and they had Sumail, Fear, Universe, and PPD, that sounded like a really scary roster, and it just didn't materialize. So lots to think about in the coming lands. But I am curious to hear you talk about Evil Geniuses, especially because we're going to see them debut at WePlay very shortly. What do you expect from this team? What should we expect from them specifically at WePlay?
Well, I think of it a little bit like the secret thing. I think they're going in to learn. And if they get a great result, obviously they're competitive players and they want to win. Like, there's no doubt about it. But in the grand scheme of things, a team with the caliber of Evil Geniuses is looking at the majors, and they're looking at TI, and that's where they want to peak. So this for them is the first, like you said, big showing where they need to show what they can do and obviously just learn from it. I want to reiterate on the whole secret thing, because I think EG are in the exact same situation where they've changed some players out. They need to find their style. Now there's also the new patch, which that's just an additional layer where you just need to figure that out. And then maybe your players are actually super well knit and everything just clicks in the previous patch, and then there's this new patch and it just doesn't work. And then, a lot of excuses can be made and you can make a lot of theories, but at the end of the day, it's the results that speak, right? So I look at Team EG and Team Secret right now, and I don't know what to expect apart from that with time they're both going to be great. I just don't know how long it's going to take. Maybe EG show up tomorrow at WePlay and they just crush everyone, or they need some time to find their style, just like Secret does. But for both teams, I think the most important thing is they go into Manila and they feel ready. That's what they're aiming for. And I don't know. I think if everyone is expecting EG to just go into WePlay and just win it, I think, again, the community has unrealistic expectations. The names are great. They're going to be great with time. Maybe it's now. Maybe it's in a month. I really can't say.
Well, thank you for that wonderfully vague, if accurate, answer.
I mean, that's honestly, that's the best I can do. That really is what it is. I don't know what EG and Secret's level of ambition are for these first tournaments that they play, if they're just going in and they're expecting to win. Because then it's obviously a disappointment, right? If they get low placements or even middle field placements. But Secret, I think when that tournament was over, the last one they played, I think Puppy, for example, tweeted out that they need to go back and they need to learn and watch at this and get better. And that's the drive. Their immediate response was not, oh my God, we really messed up and this is super disappointing. It was rather, okay, we're still in a new phase. We understand that we're probably not the best team in the world right now. We want to be the best team in the world, so we're going to take this seriously. We're going to take our losses and get better. That's what it is.
That's fair. Yeah, we all want to see what these teams are capable of, but the simple fact is,
we will.
Give them time, folks. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly.
Synderen,
that's probably what I should have just said.
This would have been a much shorter conversation, Synderen, so thank you for not.
Yeah.
Synderen, thank you so much for coming on this show, man. Really appreciate it. Any shout-outs, any call-outs you want to say before we close up shop for the night?
Who do I want to call out? I didn't actually think about that.
That's all right.
I'm just boring today. That's all. No, obviously, shout out to everyone who's watching and enjoy it. And yeah, thanks for having me. I hope. I believe you're also going to be talking to. Is it Nahaz?
We are.
Did you
yeah.
Talk to Nahaz,
we already talked to Nahaz. Synderen. That was earlier.
That's all right. I'm sorry I didn't see it. Hopefully that was a good segment too. But yeah, anyway, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Synderen. We appreciate it. We'd love to have your insight on the show again some other time. And folks, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in the show. Big shout out to Nahaz, who was on earlier in the show, and Synderen obviously for lending his insight, and then of course to my co-host Lee and our producer Steven at Toffee's Pierce, who does more than you can imagine behind the scenes, that big, warm, lovable marshmallow. That's going to do it for us tonight. If you like this show, go ahead and hit that follow button down below the Twitch window, or if you're feeling particularly generous, hit that $4.99 subscribe button. It's only $5 and it makes a huge difference for us. Plus you get access to the .fire and .fan emotes. We like to spam those during team emotes when things don't go well Teamotes? I think I just said Teemo. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, Dota fans, and to League of Legends fans, as a matter of fact. We spam those during team fights when things don't go well. I have a lot of fun with those. If you want to check out the VOD, share it with your friends. Check us out over on youtube.com/daily.esports. For more esports coverage, check us out on facebook.com/daily.esports. And then, of course, on Twitter @esports. That's going to do it for us tonight, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tune in next week at the same bat time, same bat channel. I've been Ian J. Barker, and as always, play some damn Dota.